Got it.
Hi. Hi, this is Mark Arnold with another Fun Ideas podcast. And on today's show, we have a drummer who drummed with Flo and Eddie of the Turtles. There they are. And his name is Jimmy Hunter. How are you, sir?
I'm doing magnificently well down here in Los Angeles. How are you, my man?
I'm very good. I'm up here in Springfield, Oregon, in the middle of the
Yeah,
state.
nice.
But I used to live in LA a little bit when I was a kid, and but I'm mainly a Northern California boy, so that's where
Love this Zoom thing. It's just great.
you know. So usually I start off with a lot of these interviews. Just kind of tell me a little bit about yourself, and in your case, how you got involved in drumming, and possibly how you got involved with Flo and Eddie.
Okay.
That'll be a
Well,
long answer.
I'm Virginia born, so I have a bit of a Southern gentleman, but I've got a rowdy side because I moved to Detroit area when I was 10, actually Flint, and then back down to Detroit when I was 13. So uh, I started playing the drums uh, to ventilate the anger from my parents' divorce, to be honest with you.
Wow.
And I really loved my junior high school band director, Art Dries. He was like my new father figure, and I wanted to play just like him. And he played drums, and he kind of growled when he played. So I really liked him. And he was his first year of teaching. It's like Mr. Holland's Opus. You know that movie?
Oh yeah. In
Yeah,
fact, I have it over
it was
there.
just like that. I still have so much love for him, and so much lesson from him. And he taught me about. He even gave me string-based lessons, and I played the tuba. But I wanted to be a drummer like him. And my folks got me a little set of Slingerland drums, and we had a little Tijuana brass band, and went on through high school. I still played the tuba in the band, but I played the drums in outside bands. And I had a little group called the Manchesters, 1964, and we did all the same kind of songs that the Crossfires did, probably Louie Louie, my baby does the heck, all that stuff, and little Paul Revere and the Raiders, and then the Motown thing, because we're from Detroit, we had to do some Motown. And I can remember getting into the Vanilla Fudge, and we did Set Me Free, Why Don't You Babe, and all that stuff, and got into high school and had the talent shows. And then I went to college for a couple years, and all the while being in different bands. I was in a really nice 9-piece horn band with Mitch Ryder's brother called Justice Colt. And that was a really cool horn band around the Blood, Sweat, and Tears time and the Chicago time. So that's probably about 1970. And then I did some gigs around there. Finally hooked up with this piano player named Tom Powers, who got signed by Clive Davis later as a singer-songwriter. He just passed away a couple of years ago. Fantastic. Sang like James Taylor, played piano like Elton John, Billy Joel, and Ahmad Jamal, all wrapped into one guy. Really great keyboard. Wow. So we had a good band, and that went for a few years. And then I joined a harder rock band, which was very vocal centric. So that was called Moonstone. And that was like around 73. And that went for a few years. And I'm starting to become a bar star, like in the rock bars, So all the while. And in 74, I started another band with Danny Schaefer, who eventually became guitar player with Shania Twain. And we were also vocal centric, and we started playing in these listening rooms. Tom Powers got me going in the listening rooms. We didn't have to play for a dance floor. The people would come to watch us play. It was like a little concert lounge. So this was what I did in the early 70s. And then along the way, I joined another band called Sticks and Stoned. And I replaced a drummer. He went with Jose Feliciano, and I got his gig. And that was a really good gig. It was the best gig in town, Detroit. Real highest paying job. I only had to work 4 nights a week, good pay. And I play a little jazz on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and play with Sticks and Stone on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because I'm a very dedicated drummer, and I'm nuts and hyper and too intense, just like a drummer would be. So then along about October of 75, I got a phone call from Paul Warren. Paul Warren, I don't know if you know who he is. He played on Papa Was a Rolling Stone when he was 15, and he played with Rod Stewart most recently. The Tina Turner tour, What's Love Got to Do with It? It's Richard Marx, Joe Cocker. Well, this is way before all that. So this is 75, and we had been in a band called Free Beer before that. We put that on the marquee. We'd always pack the place. So that was our band in Detroit, and he moved out to go with Ray because of his playing on that Temptations hit. He went out to play with Rare Earth out in L.A. And then when that dissolved, he went he did a little bit of Pacific Gas and Electric, and then he called me and says, "Hey, I'm doing a thing with Ray Manzarek of the Doors. We need a kill drummer, man, and you're the guy, Jimmy. You got to do this." And he knew how secure I was because the Sticks and Stone gig, I'm not going to probably get a better job in Detroit. It's the creme de la creme job, and but I wanted to go farther. I wanted to go to LA, so I gave up my weekly salary and went to LA for a puny little retainer, but a chance for the big time. And so I moved, from the bars to the limousine scene, and with Ray Manzarek, and we had a wonderful, almost like a Led Zeppelin super group, with Ray on keyboards and Paul on guitar, Nigel Harrison from Blondie on bass, and an unknown singer named Noah James, who had a very mystical quality, not unlike Jim Morrison. But I got to say, he seemed to have quite a bit of problem living up to the legend of Jim Morrison when he started going out on the road. We got signed to 20th Century Records, and then later Phonogram or Polyphonogram, I think. We did a couple albums, and then the Night City record sold 80,000. So we didn't do that great, but we got to tour and fly around with Ray. We did end up playing in Coconut Grove for 50,000 people once. All you could see was flesh for as far as you could see. So it was quite a nice experience and memory. And my dad was the guy that came out in his Winston Tastes Good Like a Cigarette Should pants, and he's got a striped t-shirt and a devil around his neck and some Elvis shades. He says, "Here they are." My dad introduced us in front of 50,000 people. So that's a good memory. Those are when your family has a little something to do with your best moments of your career, it never leaves you,
Good memories.
I remember with Night City, we played at a big place, our arena, Cobo Hall. My grandmother was in the nosebleed seats, and there was this song called "The Midnight Party," and the drummer has a lot to do with what's going to happen in certain situations. And this particular song had a little, what they call a formata. Everything stops for a second. In music, that's an upside down comma with a period on it, a formata.
Right.
And so nothing can start till I go, bop-em, 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 bop-em. Nothing's going to start till I go like that. And I just had a wild idea. I just pulled down my mic and I said, "Hi, Nanny." I just had to do it. So those are some of my memories that I remember. It wasn't long after Night City broke up that we had these two great roadies, and they became Flo and Eddie's roadies. Chuck Chirella and Bob Brown. Do you have those in your archives?
Somewhere, yeah. Those names sound familiar. Yes,
they were awesome. The best roadies, and they were our roadies. They weren't Flo and Eddie's roadies. We had them. Then we became looking for a new gig, and they found a gig before we did. And the next thing I know, Chuck is calling me up and says, "Hey, Flo and Eddie's doing the 77 tour. We got to leave in 2 days. Can you get down here and try out real quick?" You really don't have to try out. Just come in and start practice with these guys. So I went down and I learned the whole Flo and Eddie show in 2 days. And Mick Mashbeer was on the guitar. Bob Dolan was on keyboards. The famous turtle of all time, Andy Kahn, was on keys as well, the MD. And Eric Scott, who passed away last year or a year before, great bass player. And that was pretty much the band. Mark did a little guitar, and when we did the Mud Shark for a few months, and I can remember fondly the bottom line, playing the bottom line with them, and also Morristown, New Jersey was a fond memory because I had some girlfriends in that town, and those guys were very impressed that I knew girls that I could bring to the gig, and they were very impressed with that. They were impressed with my girls. So I don't know.
Now, did you play? I know Flo and Eddie later on had a West Coast band and an East Coast band. Did you play in both versions of the band if you're talking about East Coast gigs? Or
I'm the West Coast guy.
Okay.
And I only did one recording with them, and it's on an album. It's on the Bomp record. You know the Bomp record?
I'm not sure. Which
There's
one's that one?
I've got it back here in a box, but I have to go dig it out. We're not going to do that tonight. So you'll have to
No.
look up. There's a one on the bump label. It's a compilation of some sort of outtakes, maybe like like the Beatles make those outtake records.
Oh, okay.
And we went into the studio and recorded the Louie Louie.
Hmm.
And I tried my best to give it the Kingsman spirit, all the cliches I could pull out. And we did a nice version of Louie Louie, and that's on that album. So I'm so proud to be on a recording with them. So a little bit of rock and roll history, Louie Louie.
So how many years did you spend with them then?
77 tour. That's
it. Okay. And
the guy that left, well, first of all, I'll say I loved one of the original drummers. Ainsley Dunbar was my number one white boy drummer. I loved him a lot, and because I like my funky stuff too, but I really loved Ainsley. I loved his foot. I copied it. The other drummer that I copied as much as or more than Ainsley would be the drummer from White Trash, Bobby Ramirez, that passed away. He got killed in a Chicago bar brawl. You know about that drummer?
I didn't know that.
Bobby Ramirez. It was a really sad day for me. So those two drummers were my main guys for kick-ass drumming. They had great foot, fancy stuff between their hands and their feet, and I copied as much of that stuff as I possibly could and used it to my advantage and personalized it, put my own thing on it. So that became, I got a style from copying a couple of guys that I just thought were just off the chain. So between those two, and whatever was coming out from underneath my own childhood pain and misery, it became what was propelling me. And so Ainsley had the gig way before me, and then a guy named Johnny Brado. Had we discussed him before? His name was Johnny Brado.
When we talked briefly on the phone, yes, you mentioned him.
Detroit guy, and I was in Detroit time. I was washing my car and I'm listening to the radio, and Flo and Eddie were doing a radio interview out in California. I'm in Detroit, and here comes John. They're talking about Johnny Brado. So I looked up Johnny Brado because I coveted his gig, and I'll be damned if I didn't get it when Chuck and Bub took over the roadie gig. And how that happened was the historic drumming history was Johnny, and I don't know who was before me was Craig Cramp.
Yeah.
All right, Craig, great blonde-headed drummer that moved to Nashville now. And he didn't have anything to do with me getting this gig, but he had to do with me getting more gigs after, when he heard I was the guy that replaced him in Flo and Eddie.
Oh.
So what happened? Chuck and Bub got me in. I did the 77 tour, and then that kind of petered out, for Mark and Howard. But by the end of the summer, I think it was pretty much, we weren't working, didn't have any jobs. So I got a call from Nick Gilder.
Oh yeah.
Craig went with Nick Gilder, and then he got me that gig by recommending me to try out for that gig. Because he went with Kim Carnes, Betty Davis eyes. So that took me into 78 and all the way through 1980. And then in 1980, I had a lot of other bands in between all these things, but most notably, I got in Steppenwolf for a minute. They were way too drugged out. I couldn't handle that. I didn't do but a few gigs with them. I just didn't like the vibe. And then I got in with, believe it or not, we had a rhythm section, and one of the guys in the band said, "Hey, the producer Jacques Morali of the Village People is looking for a rhythm section to write some tunes for this guy, Fergie Fredrickson, who eventually ended up being the singer in Toto."
Wow.
He passed away. He needed a backup band to help write songs that he could compose with Can't Stop the Music, the movie, and his name was Fergie Fredrickson, but he had a different name, and it's just, his stage name is escaping me at the moment. Man, why can't I remember? I'll look it up in a minute.
Okay.
His real name is Fergie Fredrickson. So Fergie, and that he used that name when he got to be in Toto. So that's who I'm talking about.
Okay.
And so we did the album, and then that came out, and then the producer liked working with us so much that he took us to New York City. He says, "I am going in French. I'm going to produce Cher. You will come with me to New York. You will all live with me." And I'm going, okay, well, how much we're getting? And he goes, well, I'm going to give you a week. And I go, well, you know, that's not quite as much as we need to leave town, because I have known what's happens when you leave town and then you come home. Let me turn off my mail so that I don't do that anymore.
That's okay.
You come home and you leave town, there nobody calls you anymore because they thought you left. So I said, we're going to have at least $600 more a week than what you're offering. And so he said, okay. So he takes us up to New York and puts us in the Iroquois Hotel on 44th Street. Fantastic rock and roll hotel. They got a Gorf machine down there. We put 1 million quarters in, and everybody in the world was staying there. The Clash, Joe Jackson, all the rock boot that were kind of more punky than our group, but they put us in. They had little kitchenettes, and it was fantastic. Here, I'll give you the lineup. On guitar, Mark Meyerhofer. Have you ever heard of him, Mark Christian?
I've heard of Mark Christian.
He's a band now, Merle Jagger.
Okay, yeah.
And they're they come up and down the coast and play around. It's a country, chicken picking kind of crazy avant-garde kind of country, wild arty band trio. And Marx was on guitar. The bass player, you will know his name was Howie Epstein, who passed away, who eventually got the gig with Tom Petty. So that was the core of the rhythm section. And Dan Schmidt was on keyboards from the Oingo Boingo band. And then Fergie was the singer. So our job after making Fergie's album was to compose songs for Cher. So we went to New York City. We got our little kitchenette rooms in the Iroquois, and we're going to SIR to rehearse. And on our breaks, I'm shooting pool with the Rolling Stones, man. I mean, like, this is a great experience to leave town. I'm in New York City for a whole summer, and I got that experience and work with Cher, who was absolutely divine to work. And somehow, some way, she liked the song that I brought to the party. We were all bringing ideas for songs, and my song was her favorite one. And it was lucky for me because one weekend they came back and Jacques said, I will no longer produce Cher. We have broken our engagement. He took her to Fire Island for the weekend, got in an argument with her over some sort of creative differences or whatever. And we were having great rehearsals because she's like a really pro. Probably Cher and Flo and Eddie were the two top people to ever rehearse with that I ever rehearsed. Very, very professional. They made your errors feel like fun. They made their errors feel like fun. They just made the thing a party, and it was just fun. And everybody tried hard because they treated you so nice. So I want to say that about Mark and Howard while we're primarily discussing them. So that's so we ended up bringing in an unknown singer, but remember, Cher liked my song. This is 1980. In 83, she took my song and recorded it on the I Paralyze album. And then it ended up just a couple years ago on the Very Best of Cher. So now I got myself a double platinum record back there on the wall.
Got it. Okay.
So that's how that's that story.
Ironically, I just bought the Very Best of Cher recently.
What was that?
I just bought that collection recently. I didn't own it, and I said, "Hey, this one has a little of everything since Sonny and Cher and everything." And I said, "I'll buy this one." So yes, right. I was familiar with the track because it's on there.
Well, you helped it go double platinum. Then.
All right.
Thank you. You know, but think about it, 42 years, that's a long time to wait for something, for an accolade like that.
Right. Well, the original album didn't do that well at the time, if I remember correctly. I mean, Cher's had this odd career where she'll do really well and then flop for a while, and then she'll do really well again and then flop for a while. And
I think that was the formula for why she wanted to go with the Village People thing. She probably knew she had a huge gay following, and he had the hugest gay group. So she thought maybe she'd pick up on his fan base and have a big mega hit, but they didn't get along somehow, and I don't know. So I don't know what happened at that point. So
all right, well, you said a mouthful there, so I probably just got to ask you different people and different things. So let's start off with like Ray Manzarek. You know, what was he like to work with, and what was he like as a person? I mean, obviously he's not around anymore, and most people just know him from the Doors. So I mean, at this point, you know, what was he like in the time you were working with him?
Well, he died of bile duct cancer. He picked me up at the airport in October of 1975, and I think Ray just loved Hollywood. He loved to show people around, and he was a very generous man. And he picked me up on an old Citroen, a French car.
Yeah.
And here's me. I'm coming off my little Detroit gig. I've been to Vegas once, been to Florida a couple times. That was about it. And here's Los Angeles, just like I pictured it. Here we go. Down the Hollywood Boulevard. There's Grauman's Chinese Theater. He took me on. Here's a look of. This is where George Harrison wrote the song. There's a fog upon LA.
Oh yeah.
Blue Jay Way. Have you ever been to Blue Jay Way?
I've been past it. I've been in that
if you come down here, let me take you up there.
Okay.
All right. It's spectacle. You go down there on the 4th of July night, all the fireworks are going over the entire city. You can see it all. And he just loved showing that. And I didn't know if I was going to get the gig. I thought I was going to have to play, but I think Paul Warren had already talked him into it. Paul Warren usually got whatever he wanted. And Iggy Pop was living in our house. So his name also happens. He's a Detroit guy too. His name is Jim Osterberg.
Yeah.
So we all moved into this house in Laurel Canyon, 8632 Wonderland Avenue. It has a ring to it. I even wrote a song called that one time. So Ray put us in there, and Danny Sugarman had, of course, the best room because he was managing the band. Danny Sugarman. No one gets out alive. The writer.
Yeah. I was gonna say sounds familiar, and then
he passed away too. Yeah. So it was pretty much a drugging party fest up there, and I wasn't a big druggie. I had a 10-speed. I wanted to be the best drummer ever. I wanted to be physically fit. I ride my bike before I take my pickup truck somewhere, and I was really into good food and yogurt and granola and all. The avocados and Dr. Bronner's chips. Oh yeah. So
true Californian, and you're not even from here.
I'm trying that stuff. I'm trying that life, And so Jim, the phone kept ringing for Jim. It was all these chicks. They're going, is Jim here? Jim there? And they just hand the phone to me and says, this is Jimmy. He says, oh, Jim, can we come over? It's like really nice little Beverly Hills chicks there. And so I inherited all of Iggy's girls because of my name was Jim. And they all came home. That's how I met my first dates and of course people I met, in California. But the problem is I had to sleep in the breakfast nook because I was the last guy in. Oh. And I'd put a curtain over between the doors so I have a little privacy. But then I had all this health food in the refrigerator because from the Canyon Country Store, the band started eating all my food because they'd spent all their money on weed and maybe a little bit of powder too. So I'm going, this isn't working for me. So I moved down a couple blocks down at 2222 Laurel Canyon, and I found a great little place that Dallas from Crosby, Stills and Nash, the drummer of Crosby, Stills and Nash. He had been there before me, and Dallas Taylor. He'd been there before me. All his cases were still in the garage. I think he had a drug problem, but anyways, he had to leave. And I got this beautiful little downstairs place for $115 a month. I thought, okay. Right. and the salary that Ray was paying us was to keep us out of trouble because, he didn't want to give too much money because he knew the guys would spend it on stuff.
Yes.
So I don't know when he thought we would be able to make some money as a band. I was looking forward to doing that. We signed the contract when the record company came. We all signed on it. I only got a few writer's credits because I was the drummer and those guys were writing songs together before I got in. I replaced in that band Steve Miller. He went with Steve Miller. Oh God.
I don't know who's in Steve Miller's band off the top of my head.
Well, so the drummer that he's only on one cut of the album because he recorded it before I got there, and then I recorded the rest of the album. And he Gary Malabar. Oh, well. Have you heard the name? He's also the producer of Steve Miller on many albums. And anyways, Gary didn't want to stick with Ray. he was feeling to go to San Francisco and get involved with Steve Miller. So that's how that went. And then that lasted for 2 or 3 years before I joined the Flo and Eddie band at 77.
Did you stay in touch with Ray and stuff like that later on and stuff?
Yeah,
like
he
that?
played at my 50th birthday party. We stayed in touch. Ray excuse me. Ray knew I had a recording studio, and he always wanted me to remix the Night City album, but we could never find the tapes. We searched high and low. He was always after me to find the tapes. And I failed at that. And then I finally got a hold of the producer who produced one of his big thing was the song Chevy Van and I Am Woman by Helen Reddy. He ended up producing the Night City album. Jay Center was his name. He's now a tennis player in Florida. And I called him up. He's a very nice guy. I didn't get to know him much when we were doing it. I was all into my own little world, And then we became actually better acquainted later in life. And he finally told me that he believes that the Night City tapes were burned in the MCA fire a few years ago. Have you heard about this fire?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. And I bet a lot of people's masters are gone because of the fire.
There's a big long list on like a Wikipedia page that lists all the artists that I go. And only a few, certain artists that like had total control of their own destinies, as it were. It's usually the really big artists, escaped out of it because they bought their own masters and stuff and put them in some other vault prior to the fire. So
we ran through my drumming career pretty much. By 86, I wanted to be out of drumming. I was 36 years old and not out of drumming. I just didn't want it to be my entire thing. And it was a young man's game and drumming, And so I had a chunk of money from the Village People days, because when we went to New York, I negotiated that salary from that guy, and I came home with a chunk of change. And at that time, they had this thing called the money market account, and I was getting 19% on my money.
Wow.
And it was growing and growing. So I found myself a little house in Hollywood, a 2-bedroom California bungalow. I ended up painting the roof blue. It had a little guest house. I rented out both the house and the guest house and still stayed in my duplex up the street because the rent was only $275 there, and it made the payments for a couple of years. Then I finally moved in the house and started a studio in 86. So, and I out in the guest house. So I called it Cazador, which is my name in Spanish. And snap your fingers, I produced 5,000 songs since 1986, and I have them all on one hard drive to prove it. Wow. And then more, when you get to be retired age, I'm 71 now, so it's 65. I started writing more songs and singing my own songs and that. So I've done over 100 songs in retirement and my catalog, So I'm trying to find music supervisors to possibly take a few of my songs and put them on TV or movies. No one wants to see some old fart come out and sing his songs, but they might like what I've done on recording. So I'm hoping.
That's cool.
That's and I think the songs are good. See for yourself, jimbojams.com, JIMBOJAMZ.com. And that's where my catalog is. And my most recent is 10 songs that I sing in Spanish. I have the beautiful Erminia Molina is my vocal coach. She's sitting over here. Hello. Sí, señorita. And they've come out really good. So if you want to hit the Latin page sometime, you'll see for yourself. I really enjoyed this year. To have done 10 songs since the first of the year is an amazing amount. And I've done a couple other songs plus that this year. Did 30 songs last year. So I've really surfaced as a songwriter, singer, artist, recording artist, producer guy that has his own studio. That's pretty much how I'm doing my grazing years.
Now, you stuck with the drums all during that time. Did you continue to stick with the tuba, or did you dump all the other instruments?
I only played my tuba at my 25-year class reunion, and I sucked. I had no embouchure, but we still did, the America Beautiful Carmen Dragon arrangement, and I barely got through it.
Wow. And then on your current life as a recording artist and things like that, do you play the drums on that, or you just kind of?
I play everything
Oh,
but guitar and saxophone on that.
oh, very cool. Okay.
I often bring in guitar players. Since COVID, I haven't had a whole lot of people over, but that should be changing. And I got a full about 30 country rock songs, some R&B, what I call blue-eyed soul, BESM, blue-eyed soul man, some spiritual songs, and the Latin songs, and then blues rock. I do all those genres equally interested. I'm interested in all of them.
Very cool.
And I'd like to dabble in all of them and be true to all of them. And according to her, I have a Argentine accent. I don't sound like I'm from Mexico. Maybe a little Cuban, maybe a little, is it Argentine? South American, she says.
Well, Argentina's in South America, so yeah. All right. Well, gonna ask a couple more things on Flo and Eddie. So you did the tour, you said, in that 1 year of 77. Did you basically go all over the place? Were you stuck in a certain spot, say like Vegas?
We flew out there and then took the bus to different places. I said that the gigs I do remember really hard were the really successful night at the Bottom Line, and there was my father's place on Long Island, which was a big concert bar. Billy Joel's played there, and everybody's played there. It's my father's place, and then down to Morristown. I remember those 3 gigs. I remember on the West Coast, the Golden Bear was a fantastic gig, and also we did a thing at the Shrine Auditorium with John Sebastian and Tiny Tim.
Wow.
It was like I think that's right before those guys started doing that oldies shows for a while. That's where that gig right there spawned that tendency of them getting together with Love and Spoonful and that kind of thing.
Right.
That was the gig that did that, and I left the band shortly after that. So
okay. Now, when you were doing the act, was it mainly Turtle songs, or mainly Flo and Eddie, or a little of everything?
They did some of the Zappa stuff and all the hits. Eleanor, So Happy Together. You would probably call the titles off. So yeah, we did that one too.
Yeah, You Baby, It Ate Me, Babe. You Showed Me.
And I tried to stay true to the record, but still bring a little of my own zeal and enthusiasm into it, and they appreciated me. I can remember them introducing me the Golden Bear. I took my 10-speed down in my pickup truck because I wanted to ride down on the beach down on that 10-speed. And they go, and our drummer, the Metamucil King, Jimmy Hunt. That was their nickname for me that week. I go, oh Lord. But I love those guys. I loved them before I knew them. Loved them after I met them. My dad loved them. My dad talked about them before he died a lot. Just by that was part of his California experience when he came out to visit me. So those are some golden years, some golden days and diamond nights.
Now, did you do the typical comedy shtick between songs and things like that?
Yeah. Okay. And I'm a good show drummer, so I could throw in all the razzmatazz and the sound effects and stuff like that, and all the kicks and booms. And
I always ask people this,
it's
because
like circus drumming, man.
Right.
For the circus.
I always ask.
They had the shark.
They always jump around. They always say, it's like, oh, what do you think this is? I don't know, something, a Bruce Springsteen concert, and then they jump into a song by him. And
Turn the Page by Bob Seger too.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like, were you able to just kind of shift at the drop of a dime?
Easy, man.
Okay.
That's dude, man.
Because I always ask people that, because when we interviewed Andy Kahn, say, yeah, I had to be ready. It's like if they introduced me as the Monkees, I had to do a little Daydream Believer and stuff like that.
He's awesome at that stuff. He's really good.
Yeah. So, as a drummer, I guess, if you have to just kind of shift tempos or shift how you're playing immediately, just
go with the flow. And I think they respected me, knowing that I was a quick study and I'm a heads up kind of guy. My cymbals, I used to set them up here and hang them from the top so I could see everything going around. There wasn't any music stands getting in my way. I could see complete circumference.
That's cool.
It was really, the way I like to do it. Be heads up, a lot of eye contact, a lot of good interplay, and plenty of feeling and mojo, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I hit them hard. And if we didn't get a good sound check, we're still going to sound good because I'm going to hit them hard and we're going to be tight.
And then you kind of mentioned it, but how did you part ways? It just you got the other gigs and everything like that.
But yeah, it just didn't seem like there was much happening after that Tiny Tim gig. You know, I'm not sure, you know, really, it just sort of just kind of felt dissolved. And by the time it was going on, they, like you said, they got that East Coast, West Coast thing going on. And
right.
I think like I bet you Howard was already not wanting to be in the bus. He probably had a chance to have a band over here. They can bust them down on this side. We can fly and bust the band. So it worked out better. And a lot of artists do that, you know.
Right. And then they started the Happy Together tours, which was all totally packaged with a central band that played for everybody. That's the story we've heard over and over.
I think they were starting to sniff that coming, like I said, with John Sebastian and Tiny Tim being there on that gig at the Shrine Auditorium down on Wilshire Boulevard. That was a good memory.
No, apart from working with him, have you stayed friendly with Mark or Howard, or have you not seen him in years? Or
I've talked to Howard on the phone, but before that I saw Mark because he has a daughter that sings. And he knew I had a little studio, so he's brought his daughter over to sing at my studio.
Oh, that's cool.
So we did a few recordings. I don't know if they were karaoke's or what, but I have them here somewhere. I'd have to dig those up. They're deep in my archives. It's probably in the 90s.
Okay.
But then a couple years ago, I talked to Howard, and mostly I think I sought him out because I was concerned about his health, and I wanted to talk to him.
Right.
So I got a hold of him, and he was kind of complaining about it now. So when I'm hearing from you, makes me feel uplifted.
Yeah. And I think I said before we went on the air, so I'll just say some friends of mine, including Charles, who introduced me to you, Charles Rosenay, and Plastic EP, they did an interview with Howard about a week or so ago at the time of this recording, and Howard just basically said, yeah, he's in good spirits. He sounded great. It was about a 40-minute interview. He just said he got tired of doing the tour. He said, you know, that the tour bus to him was like a rolling outhouse. That was his words. So he said he didn't mind being on stage. He loved the performance. He just didn't like getting there. And the other thing he said was, yeah, I just turned 70 and somebody had handed me a cupcake, you know, now he's 73. So it's a few years ago. He handed him a cupcake with a 7 and a 0 on it. And he says, I'm too old to be doing this. So that's his opinion. I mean, it's like, you know, McCartney's still doing it and he's almost 80. So, you know, it's like, but you know, you can't fault him for, you know, wanting to have a few years to himself, you know. So
it's a funny situation because they might not have the big enough gigs to where they could get flown and get into the first class room, you know. Any kind of a budget situation's got to be fatiguing on an old fart like me or him, you know. I was thinking while you were talking that Ray and the Turtles had the same accountant. As a memory. You spawned a memory. Bernstein Fox in Century City on Avenue of the Stars. So I used to go pick up my little puny paycheck from Ray every week when I first got here. And then I guess I had to go get paid for Flo and Eddie from that same place. And the secretary, her name was Maggie, I became my girlfriend. And then it didn't last that long. And then wasn't long that I found out Howard's going with Maggie now. So we have an old girlfriend in common.
Wow.
I found out over the years. So that was she was a great lady. So I was glad that he ended up with somebody nice. I think he's married now to somebody, but I don't know.
Yeah, he's been married a number of times. I don't remember. It's all in his book. He did an autobiography.
He moved to Missouri, I think.
Well, he
lived with a lady in Missouri that he had met in Missouri.
Yeah, but Howard's been all over the place. I think currently he's in Washington, but I could be wrong on that. So Seattle area.
Mark or Howard?
Howard. Yeah, I think Mark is, you're right, Missouri. But I think Howard's in Seattle now, Washington.
I thought Howard was in Palm Springs.
Yeah. Well, I could be wrong on that because I didn't. They didn't say in the interview, so maybe he's moved again. I don't know. Anyway, he could be in multiple places for all I know. It's like I don't know how, because I mean I will say that Howard did say that he's doing comfortably because obviously he owns the Turtles recording, so he makes a little bread from that. So
It was a great experience, a wonderful opportunity, and a blessing. And who would ever thunk that they were one of my favorite people, because I was a huge Frank Zappa fan.
Mhm.
So the idea that just fell in my lap was like, oh, there is a God. Oh my.
Did you ever see him? Like, we interviewed Greg Hawkes of the Cars, who also was in Flo and Eddie's band for a time. He actually saw Flo and Eddie the first time going to a Zappa concert. So did you ever see Flo and Eddie playing with them?
Yeah, I saw him with Zappa at Cobo Hall.
All
And
right, cool.
I also toured with Greg when I was with Nick Gilder. We were
Okay.
the warm-up band on the Candy O tour.
Oh, okay. So it's all intertwined.
I know all those guys. Yeah, David Robinson and
Well, another intertwining, I don't know if you've ever seen the Turtles documentary that was made in the 90s, interviewed everyone, but they actually interviewed Ray Manzarek on that one. And he was, if you ever catch it, it's on YouTube so you can see it, or it's on Rhino Home Video. But they interviewed Ray and he was saying, yeah, the Turtles would come out with matching suits, and us, meaning future Doors, we were Rick and the Ravens, we came out with matching suits too,
Okay.
And so they all got their start in all these little small LA clubs and everything.
Sunset Boulevard was flourishing during the summer of love.
So they all knew each other, just like you seem to know everyone too.
Ray, I'll tell you about Ray, man. There's a little piece of Ray that loved keeping the idea that Jim just might be alive. He never would allude. Yeah, he never would say, no, you never know, Jim. You never know what Jim's capable of. He's a man of mystery. So yep.
I've seen him say that in interviews. So yeah. I could see that. Yeah.
kind of gets a twinkle in his eye, and it gets him a little turned on to think that maybe he could get you to think that maybe there's a chance that one of the greatest rock stars of all time hiding somewhere, just being anonymous,
waiting for that one moment,
sipping wine in France.
Couple other things. So you mentioned Nick Gilder a couple times. So what's he like?
You know what? I think he's a lot better singer than people realize. That cat can sing like Robert Plant. He's got a higher range than Robert Plant. He's got plenty loud when he wants it. I played on 2 albums for them, by the way, Body Talk Music and Rock America. If you ever get a chance to hear Rock America, I really let my Keith Moon out on that one. Really, I'm really rocking out good on that. It's probably me in my peak of my recording prowess, and I'm slamming them good. I got a big old set of Slingerlands with mega toms, and my first endorsement kit, and I'm feeling pretty good on the top of the world. After Flo and Eddie, I had a nice surge by being able to play those tours with the Cars and Nick, and we used to rehearse in his garage out in the valley and party with the family. And good guy. I still am his friend on Facebook. I follow his gig. He's still gigging up there in Vancouver, and his parents are English, and they went to Canada, I think, and he ended up down there, had that hit. Did you know that he wrote "I Am the Warrior" with Patti Smythe?
No,
I am the warrior.
I know the song. Yeah, I didn't know.
Wrote that song.
Well, I'm sure he wrote other songs than Hot Child and City.
Yeah. But that's an unknown thing. People don't know that he wrote that hit too. And he's a good songwriter and a serious songwriter. And I don't know what became of Jim McCullough, who was not the Paul McCartney Jim McCullough.
Okay, I was thinking
Nick Gilder Jim McCullough is up there in Vancouver somewhere too. I never heard from him after he left town. So, but I had good relationships with these guys, and that bass player's name is Eric. He just passed away a couple of years ago, and the keyboard player lives in Texas. and we stay in touch a little bit. So I'm in touch with these guys. I'm pretty close to many of my bandmates. You know, there's not too many of us that don't speak to each other for one reason or another. That shit happens, and sometimes it comes around. We start getting a heart for our good old days. Say, hey man, let's let this stuff go. You know,
Right.
Yeah, I didn't speak to Paul Warren for a year, but now we talk to every day on Facebook. So
Yeah.
I'm sending him stuff. He's sending me stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's not good to keep grudges. I know people do, or they just say, I don't want to have anything to do with them or whatever, you know. It's like, well.
My number one salute is to Paul Warren, because he's the one that brought me out here, and he's probably, to me, one of the greatest rock guitar players alive. And he rivals Stevie Ray Vaughan, Eric Clapton, any of the great bluesmen, and he's really, really, really got the blues. You want to hear a guy that's really got the blues? Listen to him play. Doesn't do a play a solo. He can do it in one take. You don't need a second take with Paul Warren. And he's on much of my albums. If you go to that Jimbo Jam site that I talked about earlier, he's on many of the solos on there.
Just mentioning Cher again. So do you interact with her ever, or is it just that one time? And then of course the royalties.
Lovely lady.
Yeah.
You know, lovely lady. I enjoyed her rehearsing. She was sweet as pie, no ego trip, and easy to rehearse with. You know. Okay. And
then I noticed on your website, and you haven't talked about this yet, you had a couple of TV appearances in your career as an actor of sorts. So I see Love Boat, a Memorex commercial, an Operation Petticoat, and an Escape from Alcatraz. It's a movie though.
I'm the drummer.
Talk about those.
I'm the drummer in Escape from Alcatraz with Clint Eastwood, and it was a cool thing. But I had to get my long hair cut off for that one, and they put you in the blue jeans and the, you know, the work shirts to have a prison outfit.
Now, what's the scene you're in? I mean, I've seen that movie a zillion times.
All right, I'm in the scene. Yeah, don't blink. I'm in the scene where I'm carrying an accordion case, which could be maybe a drum case, but they gave me a case to carry as they're shuffling us all in from one place to another in the prison. And in the case is the electric fan that Clint Eastwood makes the drill out of. They start putting the paper mache up to get, as they were doing so. I'm the one that carried the tool in there. And there's a scene of when we're playing, I got the D Block Blues, you know, and something like that, like a little prison band. So we had a whole bunch of musicians. And the other shows was Love Boat with Bob Cummings and Shelley Fabre, and Operation Petticoat with Vern, you know, the guy that plays Vern. He was on that with the Pink Submarine. And then I'm also the drummer on the Memorex commercial where the wind blows. Oh no, that's not when the wind blows the guy's hair back. It's when the guy hits the high note and breaks the glass.
Okay.
I'm in that commercial.
There's a few different ones. I remember.
A bit of trivia on that. The singer on that commercial was the Eye of the Tiger guy. Survivor.
Yeah.
They chose him to be the singer. So they auditioned. I got it. I took it. You know.
Wow.
And it's got real residuals for years and years too. It's pretty good little jobs, those little things.
So the Love Boat and the Operation Petticoat, what did you do there again?
I played drums on camera.
On camera, okay. So you didn't have any speaking lines. You're just
not really. No.
That's weird.
Another good one I have, and I still get residuals for that, is that I played the beatnik bongo player in Heartbeat, the Jack Kerouac movie. With C. Spacek and Nick Nolte. I'm back there in the coffee house. Beat cool.
Do you know what season of Love Boat it is? Because I have some on DVD. So it's like,
look up Shelley Fabre and
I'll have to write that down. I think I have that episode, because I think the first 4 seasons have come out on DVD, and so
I was a handsome devil.
Okay, I gotta look this up. This is great. Bob Cummings. Okay,
and I'm in a tuxedo in that one.
I don't know where I would see Operation Petticoat again. I watched it when it was originally on with John Astin, the TV show. Yeah, but that was good. So
that's the one with that guy Vern that plays Vern.
yeah, and I don't even remember him on that show. When you said that, I go, he was on that show. Wow, I'd like to see it again. But yeah, I think it was only like for a season and a half or something. But I watched because I like the Addams Family and I love John Astin, still do. And so that's why I was like, what do you do on there anyway?
So behind me is the actual bass drum head from 1977. I took a picture of it, put it on behind my screen. For you today.
That's really cool.
And you say you know the artist. I don't know.
I know the artist is listed on, because I think it's on their Moving Targets album. It's also that same image is printed on the inner sleeve of the LP. So if you pull out the LP, there it is on the paper inner sleeve. So, and I'm pretty sure that they gave an artist credit, but I can't remember who it is off the top of my head. So I'll probably have to email it after we're off the show. Everybody else who owns the album, just look it up. It's probably in the album. Let's see what else.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure, of course.
How did you get so fixed on Mark and Howard, or are you doing these kinds of things for other groups too?
Well, I'm a big fan of just like rock and roll 60s to 80s music anyway. Over the years, besides becoming a huge Beatles fan, I get, Rolling Stones, Kinks, everybody else and everything.
Love them.
And I became a Turtles fan basically, and because I was looking in like a little bin and I knew the song Happy Together, and there was like a bin that had little cassette tapes for like $1 or something, one of those old record stores like Musicland or whatever. And so I bought it. I said, 20 hits, $1, that sounds pretty good. Even if it's trash, at least I can hear Happy Together because I knew that song. I didn't know any of the other songs by name, so I played it and I go, hey, this is pretty good. And then I found out like Rhino Records was like reissuing all the various albums and stuff like that. So I started snapping them up as they put them out. And I go, these guys are good. Why weren't they successful? And I didn't put
great career, man.
I didn't put 2 and 2 together until later. I actually knew of Flo and Eddie before I knew of the Turtles. Because
I heard they smoked a joint in the White House with Trisha Nixon.
that's where you first heard of it. Yeah, no, the comedian Martin Mull.
Yeah,
he had a TV special, and that's on YouTube too, where he had Flo and Eddie as a special guest. So I knew of Flo and Eddie, and I knew of the Turtles, but I didn't, know that they were the same guys. Now, why I'm doing a book now as Turtles, I have written a Beatles book. I've written books about comic books and animation, other stuff. That's what I do. But I wrote 2 books on the Monkees with another author, and Charles Rosna and I became pals from another podcast, the same podcast that had Howard on it, Plastic EP. And Charles and I started talking about he's a huge Beatles fan and everything else too. And we're just talking back and forth. He goes, he just asked me, if the Beatles or the Monkees didn't exist, who would you like the best? And I just blurted out the Turtles. And he goes, oh my God, I love the Turtles too. And so we just started talking back and forth. I said, yeah, Turtles totally underrated. They should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, blah, 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 blah. And then we just kind of talked about doing a book. And I said, yeah, I could do a book, and it originally was just going to be our opinions of the various songs. And then we got a couple of interviews like yourself, and then slowly over time, we started getting the actual Turtles, and we actually got Howard. Like I said, I didn't personally, but Charles did. We got Jim Barbeta, who was Johnny Barbeta, excuse me, who was the drummer during their peak years. And who else do we interview? Chip Douglas.
Did you get Rick Mashbeer?
No, did not do him.
You gotta
yet.
get him. I think I
Okay.
got his
Well,
phone number around
you could send me people. We could still put people in. There's no deadline on this thing. So, and of course, we got Andy Kahn, we got Greg Hawkes, and
Andy is a plethora of information.
Yes. And let's see, who else do we have? Jerry Yester, who produced the final recordings. He was in the Lovin' Spoonful, and he produced their final album that was never released officially. I mean, the songs have gradually come out later, but originally,
I suppose Bones Howe is not alive. I don't know.
I don't think he is. No.
He's the producer of So Happy Together.
And
did he write that song too? I think I can't remember who wrote it.
No, the two writers there passed too. I can't think of their names off the top of my head. They did a bunch of Turtles hits. They also wrote She'd Rather Be With Me and a couple other, Bonner and Gordon are their names. It's amazing I remember. Yeah. And they always tell the story. If you ever see that Turtles documentary, is that they say that Happy Together demo was the worst demo ever, and it was passed around. Everybody turned this thing down because it was just guy slapping his knees. It wasn't with a real drummer. He was just all, I can't da, 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 just like that, and that's how the demo was. And everybody passed on it, but for some reason the Turtles and Chip Douglas heard something in there that they said, we can work on this and actually make it into something, and they did. So that's
sure did.
And they test drove it on tour for a while just to work out the kinks, which is probably the best way to do a song if you think it's going to be a hit. Fine tune it so that the audience, it's ready made for when it comes out on a record.
And if you're not using studio musicians, it's good to get the band tightened up too. So it's a piece of cake. They walk to the studio, a lot of money.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happens. So, but I mean, that's where we're at. So I'm working on a Turtles book. I work on other things, working on a Mad Magazine book. So I'm working on a lot of stuff, doing these podcasts. I have no life. Anyway, so.
It's a pleasure to meet you. It was a great experience working for Mark and Howard. If they ever see this, I want to thank you. Let me give you a big hug and say thank you to them, for accelerating my career and giving me support and a chance to play with people that I already thought were legends before I knew them. So that was really good. Mm-hmm. My all-time favorite band though is Edgar Winter's White Trash. That's my number one. Those are my boys right there. That music gets me all going on. So have you gotten turned on to them before?
I've seen Edgar Winter in concert before, so I know him, but not necessarily.
Forget about the rest of his career. Check out White Trash with him and Jerry LaCroix singing in tandem. Oh, and that drummer Bobby Ramirez.
Okay.
He just lit up
stuff to check out. All right. All right. This is the time of the show. I don't want to wrap it up yet without giving you a chance. I always tell people, tell me if you're writing a book, if you are going on tour, if your studio is open, how do people get in contact with you? You can plug anything you want. Okay. Go ahead.
I kind of already did that pretty much. Jimbo Jams is my songwriter site, and all those music supervisors definitely hook up that. There's some great material there. JIMBOJAMZ.com and JimmyHunter.com is my studio site. Am I open for business? I advertise in the Music Connection business still every month, but I take on select clients and mostly ones that I produce, not just open to the public so much. But depending on the project, if you call me up and I get together with you, we'll see if we can work something out. I have a nice facility that a lot of people dig the vibe. Not fancy. It's not bare. In some ways, it doesn't look like a studio. In some ways, it does. I got a really good Norman mic and a set of drums and a fantastic fat set of Pro Tools, and I know how to use it. I'm a good editor, and if you don't sing that great, I can probably help you sing better because I'm a good vocal coach.
Very good. All right.
And that's pretty much what I'm focusing on. And I also produce an artist called Todd Stanford, and he has albums, STANFORD. We doing our 4th country CD. So I produced, and I play in his live band still. We just did the Chatsworth Street Fair last week. And that's pretty much the only live drumming I'm doing right now. We've got a really nice band put together for him, and I'm trying to help him do his thing. And that's pretty much what I got going. Looking forward. I swim every day. I love to do that.
That's
love
really
to
cool.
Barbecue. Love walks on the beach.
Very cool. Wait a minute, it's not a dating site here. This is a podcast.
I'm just saying that. Just saying.
Anyway. All right, Jimmy.
Armenia is about to slap me over here.
All right. Well, it was a pleasure speaking with you, Jimmy, today on the Fun Ideas podcast. And we're a little bit ahead as far as when this will go out. So it'll probably air sometime in the middle of May, but I'll send you links and all that good stuff.
Fantastic.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
It's great to meet you, man.
All right. Thank you very much.
Be blessed. You know the rest.